Board of Commissioners. Would all those who are willing and able please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Grant us, O Lord, light to our understanding, prudence in our investigating, foresight in our planning, sincerity in our deliberating, the grace to follow truth in our judgment. Help us to be moved in our decision neither by fear nor by self-interest, and to do our work faithfully. May we respect the authority vested in us, for thou art the source of all authority, and may we use our directives for the common good and for thy honor and glory. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Here.
Commissioner Hammerter.
Here. Okay, we have some guests with us here, and somehow I apologize. All right, who's having fun with me? Thank you. So, we have the grandparent kinsmanship certificates. Commissioner Plechnik. They're all the same.
Mr. President, the Board of Lake County Commissioners proclaim the month of September 2023 Grandparent Kinship Month in Lake County, Ohio. Whereas the number of grandparents and kinship caregivers who are raising their grandchildren and other relative children is increasing. In Ohio, many children are fortunate to be cared for by their grandparents or kinship caregivers when their parents are unable to care for them. And whereas we honor and recognize the grandparents and other kinship caregivers who raise children in care, ensure their safety and well-being, and provide a stable household for these young people to thrive. And whereas we commend Ohio's support of state and local agencies that are increasing awareness of resources available to grandparents and kinship givers. We recognize these caregivers who are giving selflessly of themselves to improve the quality of life for the children they are raising. Now, therefore, the Board of Commissioners in and for Lake County do hereby recognize September 2023 as Grandparent Kinship Month in Lake County, Ohio.
Thank you, Commissioner Plechnik. And we have some guests with us here today from Council on Aging. We have one of our social workers, Tim Ryder. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I am Tim Ryder, Social Work Manager at Lake County Council on Aging. On behalf of our agency and the community we serve, I thank you for this recognition. The Council on Aging is proud to support the Kinship Navigator program, and like so many other organizations like ours, we provide support and resources that oftentimes grandparents may not be made aware of. Being a kinship caregiver is a life-changing decision. How appropriate to recognize this program during Grandparents Month. The Lake County Council on Aging gives thanks to the grandparents of our country and our county for all they have achieved throughout life and for all they continue to accomplish, especially those who care for their children. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lifeline Executive Director, Carrie Dodson.
Hi, thank you for having us today. We just wanted to come and thank you for your support and recognition of Kinship Care Month. At Lifeline, we run the Kinship Navigator program through the county. It is funded by the Lake County Adams Board. So far this year, we've helped over 140 Lake County families who are serving as kinship caregivers. These are families who seniors who are, very stable and very comfortable until a crisis thrusts their grandchildren back into their lives in a full-time role. And so our program exists to help connect them to resources and provides financial stability to keep them afloat during this trying time. Also to help connect the children to the trauma services that they need. So thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you. Suzanne, Job and Family Services.
Thank you, Commissioners. We appreciate you bringing this issue to attention. September is Kinship and Grandparent Awareness Month, and Job and Family Services is particularly thankful not only for your support, but the support of our community partners through Lifeline and Council on Aging. We are all working together really to provide some additional support, as Ms. Dotson said, to the grandparents or kinship caregivers who really did not necessarily ask to be in these types of situations. And what we have heard over and over again from members of the community who find themselves in these positions is that they do need support. They do want support. They want to be able to talk to social workers and counselors and other navigators because they absolutely do not know where to turn. So again, this is a great opportunity to highlight that we do have services here in Lake County to assist grandparents and other kinship caregivers.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Regovich, anything you want to answer?
I just like to add that, you know, I was fortunate as a child to have my grandparents on both sides as part of our lives, and they helped. When we came home from school, they were there because my mom had to work and my dad had to work, and it's so much more than that now, where these grandparents are having custody and control over the people that are in crisis. There's no signing up for that, and they have to they feel the burden. They want to do the best they can at a time in their life where they should be enjoying their life. So it's important to recognize that and let them know of any resources that are available. I appreciate all of you for making those available and helping in that regard. So
Very good. All right, well, we've got a certificate for each of the groups, so do you mind joining us up here? We'll get that picture out of the way. Cozy on in here? Very good. Wow. Okay, this one's kind of a interesting one. So we have the Storm Ready Award being presented today, and our recipient is going to be EMA Director Joe Busher, the Lake County EMA, and it's presented by, and oh my goodness, forgive me if I screw this up, Raylene Campbell? How close was I? Oh, thank goodness. Sarah Clerk is smart. She practices these before the meetings. I, on the other hand, hand me the script and away we go. So, welcome.
Good morning, everybody. Come on up. About a year and a half ago, Brad approached me. He's emergency planner for our agency, and he had a goal of becoming a storm-ready county. He and I sat down, reviewed the application process, and recognized that we already had a lot of the requirements already in place, and it wasn't going to be a budgetary constraint upon us. We went down to the National Weather Service office in Cleveland, met with their staff. We're assigned to work with Raylene, and I'm going to let her explain the process, and then I'll let Brad do a summary, and we'll be out of your way. There you go, Raylene.
Thank you, Joe. Morning, Commissioners. As mentioned, I'm honored to be here to present Lake County as Storm Ready from the National Weather Service. The top goal of Storm Ready is to prepare communities with an action plan that responds to the threat of all types of severe weather, from tornadoes to floods. A voluntary program created in 1998 by the National Weather Service, Storm Ready provides a clear-cut advice to city leaders and emergency managers and the media that would improve all local hazardous weather operations. Once a community meets preparedness criteria outlined by a partnership between the National Weather Service and state and local emergency managers, it will be pronounced storm ready. However, before that happens, communities must establish a 24-hour warning point and emergency operations center, have more than one method of receiving weather forecasts and warnings and alerting the public, create a system that monitors local weather conditions, promote the significance of public readiness through community seminars, and develop a formal hazardous weather plan which includes training severe weather spotters and holding exercises. An advisory board composed of the National Weather Service, warning coordination meteorologists, and state and local emergency managers reviewed the application for Lake County Emergency Management Agency and visited locations to verify the steps made in the process to become storm ready. After the advisory board approved certification on August 22nd, 2023, the Lake County Emergency Management Agency received a formal letter of storm ready acceptance. Today, we are here to formally recognize the accomplishments of Lake County Emergency Management. The county will receive an official certificate, posters, and a storm ready sign that can be displayed within the community anywhere of their choice. As a storm ready community, you are authorized to use the storm ready logo in official letterheads, brochures, or other suitable documents. And storm ready communities must stay freshly prepared because the designation is only valid for 4 years and then must be renewed. Lake County Emergency Management is one of 42 counties in the state of Ohio to receive this distinguished honor. Congratulations on a job well done, guys.
So thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Director Busher. Just want to say that the Lake County Emergency Management Agency would like to thank the National Weather Service Cleveland office for partnering with us to become storm ready. It is an honor to be a part of this initiative that supports both the National Weather Service and Emergency Management Agency's mission of public safety. Thank you.
Short and to the point. Well, you know how it goes. Come on up, picture time.
Congratulations. Thank you.
It's a freaky place. I mean, I've been doing control and I'm for a few years, and I was like, okay, how can I get out of this? Who's the next junior person to come along?
And continuing on, we have Energy Harbors with us here today. We have Mandy Nagel, the Senior Communications Representative from the Prairie Nuclear Power Plant. She has a couple of her colleagues with her today.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having us here today. We just wanted to give a couple updates of what's going on over at the Prairie Nuclear Power Plant. So we'll start with our license renewal. So the initial application was submitted on July 3rd. So they are in the process of reviewing the over 20,000 page document, which will extend our operating license through November 2046. So our current license expires in November 2026. It takes about that long from now until then to get that document approved. So we are on track to stay in operation through 2046. There is no concerns that we see in getting that license approved. And so we are still on track to our Vistra integration. Right now, all we're hearing is fourth quarter of this year. No time frame other than that, no inside information. We have the first of the 4 approvals was granted to us earlier this month from the FCC. We're currently waiting for the NRC approval, which should come early October, and waiting for information from our second request for our DOJ and our FERC approval. So any other questions, please feel free to ask me, but that's what we got going on right now.
Well, that's, stability is a good thing.
Yeah,
so
we're happy.
thank
We're
you.
happy to still be able to operate. So
And the change in ownership that we heard about earlier in the year, how's that?
that's the integration. Yep. So it should be third quarter of this year. That's what, or fourth quarter. That's what we're hearing. If we hear anything else, we'll definitely let everyone know. But it's supposed to still be on track for fourth quarter of 2023.
Gotcha. You gotta call Jerome. I mean, look, this guy's like looking svelte here. Come on.
He's moral support.
He's here, okay.
Yeah.
And gentlemen, anything?
Mr. President,
Sir.
I would just say everyone from the North Prairie School District to the workers at the plant throughout Lake County are certainly grateful to hear that we're on track for a renewal of another 20 years of licensure. The plant is a very important part of our power and energy network, but it also is an economic driver for Lake County, and we're grateful to hear that the investment will continue.
We're happy to stay as well. So.
Mr. Anything?
Let alone producing clean energy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
us today. All right, and we have our upcoming Lake County Caregiver Forum, and we have our Senior Services Manager, Aaliyah. Oh, did I lose her? There she is. She was cloaked. We're in camouflage here.
Yes, always. Okay, just very briefly, I just want to mention our upcoming Lake County Caregiver Forum. This is our second annual event. It will be October 5th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at University Hospital's Tri-Point Medical Center. Last year, we just had a vendor fair. This year, we are adding a keynote speaker. So our keynote is Katie Kurtz. She is a trauma-informed care subject matter expert, and her address will be titled Human First, Helper Second. And then we have two breakout sessions, one with the Alzheimer's Association and another one with Legal Aid. It is a free event and lunch is provided by UH, but people do need to register. So you can navigate to the senior services portion of the website to register. There's a link on there, or you can call the commissioner's office and get transferred over, and I will register you for that event. So hope to see you there. Thanks.
Excellent. Anything else for Aaliyah? No. Yeah, nope. So she has decreed. Thank you, ma'am. Always a pleasure. All right. We are still in our first public comment portion. Is there anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Ma'am.
Good morning. I'm Margaret Bushman, 5357 Ford Road, which, thanks to the Madison Township Trustees countdown, or count up as you go, it's been 391 days since that road was closed. I add 16 days onto that because I think that's when Payne Road closed, and it's been 407 days since Payne Road closed. Quit dragging your feet. It's just been too long. We may be storm ready, but we're certainly not evacuation ready. If something, God forbid, would happen to the wonderful Perry nuclear power plant, or if there would be some other natural disaster, the west end of Ford Road, we're done for, because there's really no safe way to get out. We can't take Blair Road and go up towards the Perry power plant. And all the other little side roads, it's just time to do something. And waiting to the spring of 2024 to start working on Ford Road is way, way too long. All this work should have been done a year ago. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to address the board at this time? Anyone else at all? All right, Madam Clerk, first agenda item, please.
In the Utilities Department, resolution transferring appropriations in Lake County Department of Utilities Water Fund.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Sewer Fund and Project Fund 554, Red Creek Sewer Project 280S.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution certifying unpaid water sums and administrative charges to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution to delete a water sum certified to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And Job and Family Services Department, resolution certifying compliance with Chapter 5108 of the Ohio Revised Code and adopting the Lake County Prevention, Retention, and Contingency Plan biennial renewal for the period of October 1st, 2023 to September 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
And the Commissioner's Office, resolution declaring the Lake County Board of Commissioners regular meeting schedule beginning October 17th, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving the Lake County Recorder's Technology Fund proposal as submitted pursuant to Revised Code 317.321.
Move to approve.
Second.
And discussion. We did have our public hearing just immediately prior to this. We did have consultation with legal. I'm going to be calling on legal here in just a moment, but I just want to state for the record that we are narrowly tailoring the discussion only to the $1. The language that is associated with additionally requesting salaries and benefits, that discussion is not being considered at this time, and we are acting in accordance with the appropriate revised code, and I believe we are mandated to do such. Legal.
Yes, Commissioner Hammercheck, that is correct. The revised code that provides for the increase in fees to their county recorder's technology fund, in this particular instance, because of the time frame in which it was made and the request not exceeding a certain amount and the total base fee not exceeding a certain amount, this board is actually required to approve that increase at this time. But I agree, it is just limited to this $1 increase in base fees that we're discussing.
And this is only for 1 year.
Correct, it is just for fiscal year 2024.
Okay, very good. Any further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes, thank you.
Resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the Lake County Auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing acceptance of a grant in the amount of $250,000 from the U.S. Department of Justice on behalf of the Lake County Crime Laboratory, effective October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and Extended Housing Incorporated for the fiscal year 2022 Year Home Investment Partnership Program funds.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution to appropriate funding for repairs and improvements to Payne Road as described by the Lake County Engineer.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? I guess I have to ask the question. So we have a whereas in here, whereas the engineer has agreed to cooperate and perform a performance audit, conduct audit of the state, keep favor. I guess I have to ask the question, who's paying for this? Is it the engineer? Is that the expectation? Or is it this Board of Commissioners? Engineer Gills, I guess I'll ask you directly. Are you prepared to pay for this?
I am not.
Okay. Commissioners Regovich and Plechnik, are you suggesting that if we adopt this, that we, the Board of Commissioners, are paying for this? The money has to come from somewhere.
My understanding is that these performance audits are typically free unless if they cannot find savings that exceed the amount. So if and to the extent that no savings are found, I believe that it is paid for by the state, although we're obviously hopeful that they will find substantial savings.
Oh my. Commissioner Regovich?
I fully anticipate that it would be upon us to pay for that audit, and if we have to, and hopefully we do find savings, and we will know that it was worth it.
So again, this is the proper venue to have this conversation. So begs the question of what are we expecting to get out of this? What are the benefits? It sounds like cost savings. So is there anything in particular that we're wanting to drill down on, hone in on? Any fat that is believed to be needing to be trimmed?
I believe in previous meetings we've discussed different methods to do this. This is one way to have a third party look at it, to maybe we look at it differently, and they can make a suggestion on how to save money, streamline, do something.
So, well, I've been in communication with the auditor of state, as has Administrator Boyd. They don't have a cost estimate now, but to give some sense of scale, a recent township performance audit was, and keep in mind that's a township, not a county level agency, was $110,000. There was a JFS that I believe was $95,500, not our Job and Family Services. I don't know if it was combined as ours or what their size was. They did not have that available, but it was believed that we would be in excess of $110,000. So if you're looking for something that's going to offset that, that's going to come from what? I'm just trying to make sure that we're managing expectations here. Well, then I'll just continue the conversation. The auditor of state will be looking at expenses that are not mandated, that are not required, that are not necessary. Is it the intention of this board to end the $1 million subsidy to Route 2 that our county engineer has been doing? That is going to be one of those, and it's a fair question. If the public's going to ask this, and if the auditor of state comes back and says, we just found where you can save $1 million, we need to make those municipalities aware that our engineer will be withdrawing from that support agreement.
Mr. President, you are the only person who has proposed potentially withdrawing from Route 2. I don't think that's what we're here to talk about. But I'm going to say
if I could interrupt you, sir, I have never proposed that. I am absolutely adamantly opposed to that. So let me correct you right here, right now, before that gets misrepresented.
Fair enough. You're the only one who suggested the possibility.
I have not suggested the possibility. I have cautioned that this is a likelihood. Please continue, sir.
I'm going to say what every taxpayer is thinking right now. I've never seen a government agency that doesn't have fat to cut. Not once, not ever, never. And it is incredibly difficult to be your own lawyer, to be your own doctor, to objectively look at your own operations. If you ask any government agency, is there anything you can cut? They're going to say no. We're cut to the bone, we're lean, we're mean, we're efficient. Everyone else, mind you. I could show you where we could cut from this department or that department, but not my own. It's not fair to ask a department to give themselves a performance audit. It's not fair. You need to have an outside, objective, third-party look. But every taxpayer knows that every agency in government can find savings. Now, how much that is a fair question. But it's a question that needs to be answered by the experts who don't have a dog in the race, who can give us an objective third-party look. And if they can find even $10,000 of savings, well, that would pay for itself in 10 years. If they can find $100,000 in savings, it pays for itself in 1 year. If they can find more than that, it may pay for these roads and bridges that are going to keep coming down the pike. It's not as though repaving Payne is going to solve the problem. There will always be the next road and the next bridge, and we have to be prepared for them. So if the savings are modest over time, they will add up dramatically, but I'm hopeful that they'll be more than that. But once again, if you tell a taxpayer there's no fat left to cut, government is tiny and thin and starving, they'll laugh, and appropriately so. That's what this is about. We need to have an objective third-party look. When we are talking about over $10 million in state budgeting, that has to be spent optimally. And if there's even a little bit here and a little bit there that can be saved, those dollars add up dramatically over time when you're starting at a base of over $10 million.
I hear what you're saying, Commissioner, and I appreciate your enthusiasm. But in the entire history of performance audits in the state of Ohio, there have been only 21 county level performance audits. Of those 21, only 2 were for engineers. The first being Hamilton County, I believe, in 2005. The most recent in 2014 was Mahoning County. And that was I believe, a $95,000 audit. There was also, I believe, I'll just look to our engineer on this because you engineers talk amongst yourself. There was some cloudy issues associated with both of those at the pertinent times. Don't know if you want to add to that or.
Well, I think the one in Mahoning County, there was some questions. I am not familiar with what happened in Hamilton County.
Understood, sir. So the question becomes, and again, it's a matter that has to be openly discussed. When the auditor of state comes back and starts a list of things that are being performed that are not statutorily mandated, such as, but not limited to, State Route 2 to the tune of $1 million a year, what are we going to do? The public needs to know, what are we going to do? Okay. Well, with that, is there any further discussion? None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. Thank you.
Resolution authorizing the President of the Lake County Board of Commissioners to execute an agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and Motorola Solutions for funds received from the U.S. Department of Treasury under the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, known as the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Jason, anything you want to add? Paul, anything you want to add?
Thank you, Commissioners. Before you is a request for funding for 3 systems. The first is for the replacement, the upgrade of the fire station alerting system. We use this to alert fire stations whenever there's a call for doing so. This represents equipment that will be at 14 fire stations, all dispatched by Central Dispatch. It also includes the replacement of the audio and radio recording system at the Emergency Operations Center. It records 911 calls and the radio traffic on the radio system. And it also includes radio system, adding 2 channels to the radio system that we currently use, which is used by all police, fire, and schools in Lake County, as well as the engineers and utilities. Adding the 2 channels represents about a 10% increase in capacity for the radio system. This system is crucial to Lake County public safety. There is no other system in the county that is used for primary police and fire in schools. So it is essential. Adding 10% is a very, very good thing to do, and your consideration in this would be appreciated. and I can answer any of your questions you might have.
And Paul, I think you should also mention the virtual prime and the trade-in allowances that's associated with that.
By upgrading the two channels on the radio system, it also includes virtualizing some of the components of the radio system, which takes hardware off of the system and puts the function of that hardware onto a computer and virtualizes its application. The equipment that's removed from the system will be traded in towards the purchase of this, and that's worth some $400,000. So the 1.47 million that you have in a request in front of you could be $400,000 higher if this equipment was not traded back in.
Thank you, as well as the little more discussion on the fire station alerting, that this is, and you were very careful to catch that this is in fact an upgrade of a system that was previously sought out and adopted by...
The existing system's 10 years old. It was purchased with a grant that was applied for by at least 3 different fire departments in Lake County. That system was acquired and is now, the software and firmware and some of the hardware is well past useful life and is in need of either this upgrade or a replacement.
And there was a lot of discussion as recently as yesterday, but some back channel discussions about how this is being forced upon the fire departments, and what's not being considered and was explained at yesterday's meeting with various chiefs was that we need to look at compatibility and going forward and maintaining updates and maintenance. Would you care to expand upon some of that, sir?
There are a lot of fire station alerting programs out there, or systems out there. This particular program or system is integrated with the radio system. It's the only one that integrates and is manufactured by the same company. Lake County has experienced too many times where we have 2 different systems or 3 different systems, and we want them to work well together, and they don't, and then the finger pointing begins, and at the end of the day, it doesn't work the way it should have worked, which would not be the case in this situation. Both the radio system and this fire station alerting system work very, very well together as long as both systems are maintained properly and both systems are upgraded when they should be upgraded. The radio system that we have is upgraded on a 2-year schedule, meaning that every other year it receives the firmware and software and hardware upgrades that is needed. That is paid for by the state of Ohio until 2039. The fire station alerting program system upgrade that you have in front of you will be upgraded every other year, at least for the next 5 years under the agreement that you have in front of you. And those two are needed to be in lockstep together. And that's why I strongly suggest this one, because we won't have a problem. They're made by the same company and they'll be on the same program for upgrades and software and hardware upgrades.
And one of the complaints that had been levied was Motorola, here we go again. I think it's fair to enter into the discussion that Mock Alert originally was not a Motorola product. It was a totally separate company moving that product forward. They did work closely with Motorola for type approval and compatibility. They were licensed and certified to be compatible with Motorola, which is why it was such an easy integration. Motorola then acquired, has now purchased the company. And I think we also need to enter into the discussion that it's more than just compatibility with our radio system, our dispatch, as well as our records management, CAD. Anything that can touch it has to be compatible. And that was really the one product that stood out. And again, this is an update. This is not a complete refit replacement. So is there any more that you want to add to that, sir?
As I mentioned to the fire chiefs the other day, that when the existing system stops working, my phone rings, and not only am I interrupted, but more importantly, the fire stations aren't alerted. This fire station, the reason for the fire station alerting system, primary reason is because central dispatch dispatches for many fire departments, and there is in place a mutual aid system where if there's let's say for instance, a structure fire in Concord Township, the dispatchers will alert or enter into their CAD system that there's a structure fire and there's a preloaded, pre-configured matrix of which departments will respond for this. And when they hit enter on their computer, it automatically, through the fire station alerting system, alerts the stations that need to be alerted with the press of enter on the keyboard. In the past, they would have to call on the radio all of these fire stations and tell them what they need to do. This does it automatically, instantly. And that saves them a tremendous amount of time, especially when they're dispatching for a large number of fire departments as well as police departments.
And just again, put a nice bow on this. We're talking about everything on this is pretty much system-related, backbone-related, located at the Emergency Operations Center or at all of our sites, the channel ads. This does not talk about subscriber units. This does not talk about subscriber units that are coming up on end of service life or are at end of service life.
That's correct. This is only fire station alerting. It's only at the 14 stations. This does include a new equipment at one station, and that's Willoughby Hills. They currently are not part of the existing fire station alerting system. If this is approved, then they will be going forward.
And in fairness, I did ask for Director Stefanko to give me an inventory of the county radios and the types. Here's copies for your review. I do believe at some point very soon we're going to have to talk about where the county as a whole is with communications equipment. We can have the best backbone on the planet when you have radios that can't talk. Did you want to get into the double authentication that's coming down the pike? That some of these older radios are not.
Yeah, dual authentication, that will take place in 2025. That's what Motorola calls link layer software. All of the county radios that were approved by the commissioners, I think it was earlier this year or perhaps late last year, have been replaced, and they have link layer software, and they're all good for dual authentication. Radios that are not capable of dual authentication are the XTS and XTL radios. They're on the list in front of you. There are about 1,100 radios in the county like that, school bus radios and so forth. They were eligible for link layer software. They could have purchased that up until June of this year. Many of them chose not to do that. So they are in a situation where come June of 2025, those radios will stop working. They just won't work anymore. And those will need to be replaced because they won't be compatible with the radio system. Dual authentication was put into place because of hacking capabilities by the criminal element, and Motorola took the step of adding an additional layer of authentication so that it's very, very difficult now to clone or duplicate a radio on the radio system, where in the past it was relatively easy. But this required this link layer software be put in every radio, and it is a requirement on the state level for all 140,000 radios on the system to have dual authentication and link layer software come June 2025.
And the backbone that we maintain
is part of the MARC system. I mean, Lake County owns it, but we have an agreement with the state where they share our radio coverage area and we share their radio coverage area. That's why if anyone leaving the county, regardless police, fire, schools, or EMS, you can roam, just like a cellular phone would roam. You can roam throughout the state if need be, and there's no charge for that. So you could take a sheriff's department can take a cruiser from here to Columbus and be in constant communication all the way there and all the way back.
Okay, just want to be clear that what we are voting on and buying today is not going to address subscriber units, including other dispatch centers other than our own, their communications equipment. And that is coming, so there might be some benefit to the county for police, fire, EMS, schools to start bundling some things on a global level to get better pricing, if not financing, because this is serious and it is coming.
Yes.
Reasonably well said, sir.
Any other questions?
Gentlemen? All right.
Okay,
you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution authorizing the President of the Lake County Board of Commissioners to execute an agreement between the Lake County Board of Commissioners and the Lake County Agricultural Society Board for funds received from the U.S. Department of Treasury under the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, known as the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? That's a lot of money, guys. What? Well, I guess I'll just jump in on this one as well. Been in communication with our fair board, and this may not be the best use of ARPA funds. We're looking at approximately $1.2 million. That $1.2 million represents a federal procurement model. Our fair board, they historically deal with local vendors or self-perform a great deal. Just in conversation with them, and I would agree that they could probably save 40% if they had less restrictive dollars. That 40% represents about $480,000. That's a lot of money. I think if you believe, as I believe, that our fairgrounds are worth investing in, we should give them some funding that's not as restrictive as ARPA funds, and handle it as we have handled projects in the past with the Fair Board, where they are given the necessary funding, they perform it, and they move on. I know that they're in the process of trying to get additional quotes, but getting vendors and stuff lined up on the timelines that we're working on, kind of tough, and there are a number of projects out there that I think we could better use these ARPA funds on and take care of the Fair Board with less restrictive funds to give them the freedom to do what they do best. Anything else you want to add to that? Or?
Mr. President, number one, we all know costs of construction have gone up considerably, so there's a sticker shock to any project. What we're talking about is roof replacement. This is nothing sexy or new. This is about making sure that the roofs of the buildings on our fairgrounds don't leak like a sieve. I understand that federal dollars have to comply with prevailing wage, and we're typically talking about union jobs, but I believe, for one, you get what you pay for. And as someone who's always supported union local labor, I don't want necessarily to try to find a cheaper non-union alternative. I know that the fairgrounds in the past have, really gone above and beyond to find some creative ways to find a small Amish company here, or, friends and family come together to do it. But this job is beyond that ability. And while, yes, construction costs are up, the cost is the cost. And ultimately, these federal dollars will have to be spent, no matter what project we use them on, complying with prevailing wage and other federal procurement standards. So if and to the extent that there's a additional cost because it's federal dollars, we'll have that additional cost in any project we do. So I feel very strongly that it's important for us to deal with this maintenance issue. The fairgrounds do belong to the county, and we are directly responsible for their maintenance. I also believe that in all likelihood, if one of these roofs collapse, we're just going to pay to have it fixed the next day. And when I say we, I mean any Board of Commissioners. I don't think anyone wants to be known as the commissioner who canceled the fair. So I'm just being realistic here. If the roofs were to collapse in a few days before the fair, we would simply pay to have it repaired. It would cost even more because it would be a last-minute emergency repair. And given that we all know that that's what would happen, taking a farther view and doing the maintenance as it's needed rather than letting it go until we have a crisis. I think we've had a lot of conversations about the importance of planning ahead, the importance of getting things done in advance so that they don't become a crisis and shut things down. I think this is a perfect example of how taking the initiative here is going to make sure that the fairgrounds are in good stead without any such emergencies or closures. And to the extent that there are restrictions on these dollars, they're going to have those restrictions no matter how we spend them.
Wow. I'll try to take some things in order. You know, when we talked about union labor, when I suggested a project labor agreement for our jail to keep moving forward, I had crickets, so I'm just gonna check that one off. Roof collapse. Do we even understand the buildings we're talking about? These are precast concrete structures that there's some issue leaking on seams. If they collapse because there's water dripping between the seams, there's a bigger problem. Maybe like a parking garage collapsing because of a lightning strike or something. Wow. What I'm referring to as far as, and maybe I could really make this very plain, the federal procurement model, especially in this example, follows very closely to what we've all heard about, the $900 hammers and the $800 toilet seats. Our Fair Board has better ways to acquire legally services. They are confident. I believe they should be given the chance to do such with less restrictive dollars. And to the point of what we should be spending the dollars on, I really believe just that $480,000 is approximately the amount of money for the agricultural deferment on Dock Road if we were to put a water line down Dock Road for the benefit of all and start closing loops on our east side. For those who may not understand what an agricultural deferment is, if you have nursery land or you have other farmland where crops are placed, they don't pay for that pipe running past that facility. We're talking upwards of tens, if not hundreds, of acres in regards to frontage. The people on Dock Road deserve fresh drinking water. We're looking at approximately a $3 million project with $500,000 of that being in the agricultural deferred. We could very easily put together a project very similar to what we did in Kirtland, where you have a grant program for those who are low to moderate income would qualify for assistance. So we could put something together that would in fact be best use. And yes, I'm being very careful not even to talk about roads and bridges, because there's so many other things that these dollars could be used for, and still we could take care of the fairgrounds. We could work with the Fair Board to achieve all of these things and do so much more. But let's talk about the city of Mentor. There's a $500,000 gap there with the Mentor Lagoons project. Just that additional money alone would close that gap. Now, admittedly, we could take that money out of the Lakeshore Improvement Funds at 2%. That's fair, but as long as we're talking round numbers that people can get their heads around, I think those kinds of examples of best use makes the most sense. And one of the things that folks who raise farm animals and work farms, they do have to be efficient. They do have to use common sense. So I'm never once have I heard anybody at the fairgrounds express that they're in fear of the concrete precast. These were the Sidley buildings that came out of Thompson collapsing. So I don't even think that should even be entertained as a subject. That's more of a red herring, if I could just throw that out there. I don't know, guys. I just think there's a better way to do this. In talking with the Fair Board members that I've communicated with, they feel that there's better ways to do this. And in fairness to at least, I'll just say two of the Fair Board members, one is a township trustee and the other is a superintendent of a township road department. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be taking some heat for why are you wasting 40%? Again, I'm just trying to, there's better ways to do this. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but we need to squeeze every penny out of every dollar. And what's the old saying, make Abe cry? There's a better way to do this. And there's projects that people are asking for. I've just given you a few. I could go on with more projects, but I know Perry's been asking, Perry Township, they've been asking for infrastructure improvements. These dollars are very quickly being depleted. So just throwing that out there, but there's a lot of competition for these dollars. So I wanted to get that into the discussion. Commissioner Regovich, anything you want to add, sir?
Oh, I think it's worth saying that, you know, this money that we have to spend has parameters on what we can spend it on. So you talked about roads and bridges, you brought that up, but we can't spend it on roads and bridges. We're
Actually,
not
I
allowed.
left that out of the conversation.
Exactly,
In fact,
but
I
you brought it up,
explicitly said that.
and I can tell you that, you know, concrete parking structures collapse during rainstorms. This is something we could spend on that will take us off an obligation to give us 25 years of not having to spend this out of the general fund, that we can use that money on roads and bridges. Because someday we're gonna have to fix these roofs, and they're gonna need to be taken care of. There's many roofs there that leak, and many roofs that need to be taken care of. So this is an opportunity to protect the general fund and from spending that money out of the general fund.
Actually, the general fund's not at exposure because of the fairgrounds. We own the property, the fair board owns the buildings. It is their responsibility, not ours. It is a courtesy in the past that we have been helping and assisting them. Just to be clear, that's that which goes back to my discussion about the engineer's office and State Route 2, what we do as a courtesy versus what we have to do as mandate. And I believe we are mandated to, I believe it's only $13,000, and that's just taken off the top of my head, of what we're mandated to provide to the Fair Board. 1.2 million is not mandated. There is no exposure to the general fund for these roofs. We've historically taken care of things one at a time, and the Fair Board has been very reasonable to work with. I just want to make sure that what we're deciding on is based on fact, not myth, not misrepresentations or misunderstandings. So I just want to be very clear on that. So, wow. There's just no appetite to maybe consider tabling this until the Fair Board could maybe discuss this with us a little bit more. Would there be an appetite to table this and have a little deeper discussion with the Fair Board and see what, since we had such a discussion about fire station alerting, the least we could do is make sure the Fair Board's not going to be put in a bad light here of wasting funds. Okay, so no interest in tabling. Well, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
No. Thank you.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,970,228.85.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $708,118.18.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution increasing and decreasing appropriations for various non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Resolution advancing and transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. None being heard. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes. All right, moving on to departmental reports. Utilities.
No report today, Commissioners.
Thank you. Job and Family Services.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to provide a brief update to the board that we are about halfway through the Medicaid unwinding across the street at Job and Family Services. That started in April. I've discussed this at previous meetings, that those folks who had Medicaid benefits throughout the public health emergency who may not necessarily be eligible for Medicaid any longer, all county agencies throughout the state of Ohio have to process those applications that were put on hold throughout the pandemic. So staff at our agency are very, very busy. Like I said, we're halfway through. And today I really wanted to acknowledge the public assistance staff who are working really round the clock to meet the deadlines that the state has given us. And we will continue our hard work through hopefully April of 2024.
Very good, thank you. Anything for Suzanne? All right. County Administrator Jason Boyd.
Good morning, Commissioner. Just my weekly update on the Public Safety Center process. We had another really good meeting yesterday, I believe it was, with HOK and the consultants. At this point, things are progressing quite nicely. We're starting to see the building kind of rise from the land and getting a feel on how it fits on the footprint that we have currently, and some parcels we hopefully will be acquiring. We're starting to get our first look at the inside of Sally Ports and what a cell may look like, and the sheriff and his team were there yesterday, which I like because that's when I can start to slide out on this process because I don't know anything about that. But it's moving quite well, on time. Next week, as you know, we'll be heading up to Wayne County, Michigan, which is north of Detroit, to look at a facility that's about to go live. So we'll be able to get in the facility and look at some of the attributes that we can apply or not apply to the county building. And then the interviews for the two design build firms will be tentatively October the 10th. You have holds on your calendar. That's a Tuesday, starting I think around 10 o'clock. We're waiting to finalize those dates. That'll be an all-day session, and we'll have our consultants here as non-voting members, but to provide us their insights, guide us with questions, etc., through the interview process. Thank you.
Very good. Anything for Jason? Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Yes, item number 6 in the resolutions, the meeting schedule will be posted online this afternoon, and it will have all the meetings for the rest of 2023. And also the next commissioner meeting is going to be Thursday, September 28th at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Legal.
No report, Commissioner.
Thank you, ma'am. County Engineer.
I'm happy to report that we have completed our negotiations with Great Lakes on Williams Road. We got a very good price. Because of the lateness in the year, we are going to, we had to modify the negotiation to leave out the finished pavement and so forth because we can't get it done. We will roll that into our next year's paving program. It should result in a minor cost savings because of a bigger project that would be involved in the overall paving program, and that would be paid out of my office as part of the paving program. So we have put in a purchase order, which I think was probably approved today with your actions, previous actions. The contractor is looking at the first week or so in October to start moving in and starting the work. He has ordered much of the stuff that he needs. Now, let's go to Payne Road. Payne Road is ready to go. We are finishing off the specifications. We will be submitting a resolution shortly for bidding. That project we are going out for bids because it's pretty complicated. We will anticipate taking bids receiving bids at the end of October, and probably by the time we go through the steps of the contracts, approvals, reviews, and that kind of thing, that work will probably start in December. It is good winter work because we have storm sewer involved, and that's excellent winter work for the contractor. The utility companies are finishing moving the utilities that are in the way, so we should have clear ceiling once the contractor moves in.
Very good. And I think at the risk of spoilers, in good faith, our county engineer has been working, obviously giving me full access to the budget, going over things, but working with Joel DeMar of our HR side of things, and we've been talking with our stormwater management folks. You know, there's a posting for a drainage engineer. One of the things in these performance audits is repurposing, reclassifying, rearranging workers. I want to make it clear that Engineer Jim Gills has been actually discussing how we can make best use of that, and that would be a direct benefit to his budget and getting people properly cross-trained and best use. So that's the kind of stuff that's already going on. So I want to get that into the discussion. Wow. Okay, anything for our engineer? Okay, moving on to old business. Do we have any old business? Any old business? All right, I'll jump in. So we've gotten Williams Road out of the way with the resolution. We just did another one today, the second one for Payne Road, and we have a lot of interest and heartburn over Ford Road and Blair Road of the original ask. We did have before us that the remainder of that, once we take out Williams and Payne, is $5,773,031.58. We've pretty much now stipulated what our requirements are as a board. These are the things we want to see before we can put something forward to vote upon, and I think the time has come, since we've all agreed and we're very good at checking off boxes here. So I think it would be fair that perhaps at our next meeting we have a resolution for Ford and Blair Road with the estimates as provided of $5,773,031.58. So Engineer Gills, would that be acceptable to you if we were to proceed now that we've seems to have come to an understanding of what the things are going to be required in order to properly fund you?
Yeah, that'd be fine. If the money's already in a pot or headed forward, then it's very easy to speed the process up a little bit and keep it going. We will talk to the engineer on Ford Road. The work on Blair Road is already proceeding, so on schedule. That project can't, because it's got now Public Works money in it, that money won't be available till July 1st, so we can't do anything on that one till July 1st. But putting it all together would make it a quick process to finish, to move forward.
And since it's, I'm going to put you on the spot, Engineer, had you been funded when the Ford Road lack of funding was first brought up earlier this year, I believe Ford Road would be out to bid right now.
Well, I don't know if it'd be out for bid, but very close to it. We would have moved a little faster, but not knowing whether we were or weren't getting the money, we moved along at a nice pace, going through the steps, but we didn't push the engineer. Whereas, we would have, and it probably would have been ready a little earlier. But it's moving now, and we have all the data that we need. The surveying has been done by the professionals, and so it's just a matter now of seeing if we can't get them to, if the money's going to be available quicker, then we can ask them to kind of move it up, even if we have to pay a little extra premium for them to work overtime and so forth. It's in some cases it's well worth it. It would seem that we have a great interest in getting this road open as soon as possible, and that is one possible way we can ask the engineer to, to work some overtime and pay accordingly.
Thank you. Anything else on that subject, gentlemen? Okay, moving on to new business. Do we have any new business to come before us? Any new business? All right, hearing none. Second, public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time? Ma'am.
Gilda Spencer, 5580 Ford Road, Madison, Ohio. So I want to remind you, gentlemen, of the things that we don't have, and it sounds like we're going to be moving forward. But just in case, are you aware that we have a children's home on Ford Road? And this may be the improper wording because I'm not sure what you call it, but it is for severely handicapped children. And There's no signs, there's no markings. It's been out there for probably 30 years. So when I had talked to her, her concern is an ambulance for them, minutes and seconds matter. So please keep that in mind. My other question was, when the gentleman was here talking about the fire department things, is he compatible with Geauga County and Thompson and Leroy? Is that going to be compatible with them? Because that would be concerning to me.
What was the, Mr. Paul Stefanko, Director of Telecommunications Department, he was referring to fire station alerting. That's specific to specific fire stations. It's what turns the lights on, activates the radio and other systems in the building, air evacuation for the exhaust fumes.
Okay, so that wouldn't be to call, okay, I'm sorry.
Hold on. There's a lot of stuff on that list. I'm trying to take them one at a time.
All right.
The 2-channel ad, yes, that Thompson would be able to use our system as we can use theirs.
Okay.
There is overlap and compatibility as they would come into Lake County from mutual aid. They would be able to benefit from our system. The discussion about the virtual prime, which I know is probably a lot of gobbledygook, but it takes physical hardware out and turns it into electronic gobbledygook that does the same thing that we're trading in. And the voice recording systems, that has to do with radio traffic, phone traffic, and other such things that need to be recorded. So yes.
Okay.
That's a very long answer to a very short yes.
Okay.
But I wanted you to know exactly what.
Yeah, but, well, because I was getting kind of concerned about that, because if certain things happen, that's who we have to rely on. So, and then the other thing I want you to be aware of, when that semi crossed the road out by us, we were stranded out there for 3 hours. We couldn't get the Madison Township Police to come. We couldn't get the Sheriff's Department to come because the Sheriff's Department says, well, we have Township. Township has to cross Perry or Thompson and Leroy to get to us. So nobody wants to come. So we basically have no police unless we would yell, there's a gun out here, which, okay. So we're kind of stranded that way. We don't really have, it's the same thing for if we have to call the rescue squad. It's the same issue. They really don't want to come to us because that ties them up for people who are in their area. So those are things that are concerning to us, and I know that you don't want to hear this for the 9th or 10th time because it's perfectly clear. But somebody has to keep reminding everybody that this does happen, and we're like an island out there. We're Madison Township, but nobody wants to do anything. We still don't have any busing for the kids. And I know that elementary is supposed to be bused and middle school. They're not. Those parents are still driving, and nobody's offered them any money yet. I have to say my grandson drives. And last year we were offered money. It was $500 and it did help pay for the gas, but that's not being offered to the elementary kids. And there's 4 families out there. It's not like it's just one kid they're coming down the road for. There's 4 families with 2 or 3 kids. So they're being left out in the cold because nobody wants to do anything. And we even tried, my grandson went to Auburn to get Riverside, because Riverside is comes right down to almost to my house. And they wouldn't transport him, even though they were going there because we're a different county. So I don't know what the legalities of all that was on who has to pay for what and all that jazz. I'm sure that's the issue. But we're left out there. We're stuck. Nobody, it's just like, well, just because we're out there, we're out of mind, and nobody pays attention. Well, I'm just going to keep reminding you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ken Gautner, Madison Township Trustee. Mrs. Bushman's right, it's 391 days and counting. I did hear some good news, I guess, today, which was that, and I hope and I encourage the Board of Commissioners to pass a resolution next week, like you did today for Payne Road, that would fund the Ford Road Bridge. It's time. It's past time. It's way past time. I've been coming here now since the end of March, talking to you about it, and I'm sure you're sick and tired of seeing me, but someone's got to speak for the residents out there. And I was a little bit surprised, I got to tell you, when I heard Commissioner Plesnik say, when we were talking about the buildings at the fairgrounds, that you own the property and you own the buildings and you have an obligation to fix them. I don't know totally about that. Yes, you own the fairgrounds. There's no question about it. If you look on the county auditor's website, the property is owned by the Board of County Commissioners. However, there's a thing called the Agricultural Society, which is recognized under Ohio Revised Code, also known as the Fair Board. But Agricultural Society has certain obligations to their properties. And I agree with you, Commissioner Hamercheck. I see the repair of the roofs is the responsibility of the Agricultural Society, not the Board of County Commissioners. Yeah, you could. You're not statutorily obligated to repair their buildings. I've never seen that. As you all know, I spent close to 21 years in this office, had a lot of discussions with the Fair Board or the Agricultural Society, as we know. In the past, did the county commissioners give them money? Yeah, most of the time it was CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant money. It was for things like restroom upgrades, handicap accessibility, those kind of things. I don't ever remember, and I could be wrong because, you know, a lot happened in that 21 years, but I don't ever remember any general fund money coming out of the county commissioner's pocket to fix anything at the fairgrounds. Obviously, ARPA money wasn't available back then. But if the fairgrounds buildings are your responsibility, so are the roads and bridges in this county. And the law is very specific about that. Matter of fact, the county prosecutor issued a legal opinion telling you that a few weeks ago. And yet, we'll spend $1.4 million for roofs at the fairgrounds. And I guess I am a little confused. Maybe you can clarify that. When ARPA money first came out, the things that it could be spent on were somewhat limited, and then the federal government decided to expand that a little bit. But one of those things was infrastructure, which I agree with you, Commissioner Hamercheck. Water lines are infrastructure. I guess I thought a bridge was infrastructure too, but maybe I'm wrong. So where can you explain to me the difference between why ARPA money can't be spent on a bridge? Because I thought that was infrastructure, and I thought that's what ARPA could be spent on.
Jason, I don't recall the specific language to you, but I do not believe that roads and bridges were part of the final guidance from the Department of Treasury. And as I understand it, everything we have done, we've vetted it through outside legal counsel. So
yeah, my read of
ARPA
is infrastructure, and ARPA world is pretty much water sewer lines, below grade type stuff, and roads and bridges have not been viewed favorably. I don't know if Mr. Gills agreed, but there's some clear guidance that says it's unfortunate. You know, we looked at that a couple years ago. Yes. So.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Yeah, I wanted, because I did not know. I know you could spend it on water and sewer, which the commissioners were kind enough to put $1 million towards our proposed sewer project on Route 20, but I didn't know about the bridge issue. But all the same, you do have a responsibility for roads and bridges under Ohio Revised Code, which the prosecutors told you about. So I really encourage the commissioners next week to enact a resolution which will fund Ford Road and Blair Road. I'm glad to see that the Payne Road and Williams Road are on their way, but it's time, guys. It's way past time, and we need to do that. I hope none of it's politically motivated. I know that I've probably gotten under a few people's skin here over the last 6 months. I know that the people on Ford Road also got under a few people's skin regarding the local business out there. And sometimes I wonder if some of this is, because it seems like Ford Road's being put off till last, if some of this has some other motivation behind it. I hope not. But again, I really urge you to put that resolution on next week, call for the vote, and let's get moving, because it's 391 days, and we know right now that 365 days from now, that bridge is not going to be fixed. So I thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? else wishing to address the board? Anyone else? Ma'am?
Margaret Bushman, 5359 Ford Road. I'm glad to see that there has been some progress made. I firmly implore, beg, plead with the commissioners to fund the Ford Road Bridge project next week. As Mr. Gottner said, it should have been done a long time ago. Yes, it's a complicated project, but because it's a complicated project, it should have been addressed much, much sooner. And we cannot put it off. It's just criminal to put it off. And it's the commissioners and it's the engineer's office that have to work together to get the funding and to get moving on this project. Today, I see a glimmer of hope that at least some progress has been made on Ford Road, and that some progress has made on Payne Road. But I wanted to stand up here this afternoon and say 391 days, 390 days, 389 days, or to go start with 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But I don't want to waste any more time because too much time has been wasted. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, if there's no one else wishing to address, sir.
I'm Christian Weiss from Leroy. I want to thank Engineer Gillis. I was on the way to the meeting today, and you had a crew out there again working on Blair Road on the surface. Guys are always doing really professional work. I always wave to them and say hi. So again, thank you for sending the men out to do work out there. If I understood correctly, so the final impediment was a performance review in order to get the commissioners to move forward on voting on these resolutions for these roads. Is that correct? That was what it took?
I frankly never asked for one. I'll let my colleagues speak for themselves.
Okay, so
I don't know that I'd call it a final impediment. I mean, we've had other agreements in place that didn't go forward.
Okay.
And that was just another thing we negotiated.
Is there anything that would prevent you from voting on the funding of Ford Road and Blair Road, and hopefully as early as next week?
I believe we said, and the engineers stated in the past, as they come up and we know the true cost of these things,
okay,
take them as they come.
But he's got costs for Ford Road, and he said he can move it along.
That changed twice. So we're
Okay.
looking at it as they come, and we've stated in previous meetings. And
well, we'd really like to see this get funded, because again, as the public understands it, having the funding in place has relevance to putting it out to bid. Is that correct, Engineer Gillis? All right. So again, that's the important point there. Moving on to another matter, radios. Mr. Stefanski talked about that. He told me that is not going to include encryption and the GPS location components of a radio system. In fairness, he did say the fire department didn't ask for it, but you know, gentlemen, we have to look at what's going on in this country. There's estimates now that there'll be over 15 million illegal persons entering this country during the Biden administration, possibly by the end of this year. Many of these people are criminals. Many of them are foreign agents of foreign governments that are hostile to the United States, and they bring a severe threat to our law enforcement and first responder network. We cannot afford to not have encryption on our communication systems, okay? The threat that a bad actor or bad actors working in concert with one another can use our own communication network against us is too real not to recognize. And I implore this board, despite whether the fire department agrees to have it or not, I don't believe the sheriff's department would turn it down, to
to purchase that capability and implement it at the earliest possible time. And then finally, when we talk about these roofs over at the fairgrounds, as has been mentioned before, these are precast concrete buildings. They will not collapse due to leakage. Almost all of those buildings are used either for storage of, housing horses and livestock. Okay, the horses don't mind a little bit of rain on their head. They deposit their urine, and I won't use the word that I was made to leave before, but there are other bodily fluids and excrement into those barns. So a leaking roof to a horse, not a big deal. I also happen to know virtually everybody on the fair board. Dick Parker's been a family friend for 60 years. Bob Dawson, known him for 30 years. John Slansky. And, these guys are very capable guys. They're all hands-on guys. Most of them are contractors. It was mentioned earlier this summer that the fair had almost double its attendance, one of the best years ever. Everybody paid, or many people paid, to go there. Additionally, the Fair Board generates its own revenues from storage of boats and RVs and other events that they hold, and even from housing the animals not during the fair. And again, most of these buildings sit empty most of the year. So I don't see how putting 1.4 million or even 1.2 million into them when those funds are desperately needed elsewhere is appropriate. And I really think that was a mistake that you guys voted on doing that when, as Commissioner Hamercheck said, there was a cheaper way to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Engineer Gills, that did spark a thought. So you've declared some of these projects emergencies. Would Ford Road be a bid project, or would that be one that you would declare an emergency and you would negotiate the price?
We could do both. Obviously, if we negotiate it, it speeds up the process, and I would, at that particular point, we probably would take a look at both options and then choose once we're ready to go.
And forgive me for perhaps poorly wording my question earlier. Had you been properly funded as state law requires earlier this year, would Ford Road be further along than it is? Would we be looking at next year? Would we be talking about some activity, reaching out to a contractor to build this thing now rather than next year?
Well, I would say that we would certainly, the process would be speeded up. Now, whether it would have been ready this year in terms of starting the construction, I would simply say to you that it probably would have then been in position to go forward in December rather than spring. 2 to 3 months is what the savings would have probably been.
And again, I want to make sure that there's no misunderstandings or misconceptions. I've heard the term true cost mentioned many times. I'm inclined to say good faith estimates, engineer's estimate, architect's estimate. These are all things that sometimes get interchanged. The numbers that you have that we've been working with through this entire process, along with contingencies, are you confident that those are good numbers to be able to be making decisions on?
Well, I'm comfortable with them up to a point, yes. But just like anything else, you can fund it now, fund it later, but if you fund it now and we have to make an adjustment later on, it's probably only going to be minor dollars. It does obviously show that we're ready to go, and again, it allows me to go to the engineers and say, hey, give me a price for doing a little overtime, and how far up. With that in mind, can we move the design process to finish this where we can then go to a contractor and go forward?
Thank you for that clarification, sir. All right, if there's no one else wishing to address this board, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to approve.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamercheck.
Yes. Thank you for joining us.